What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another edition of Pistons Daily, where you can find daily content covering all things Detroit Pistons, Monday through Friday. As always, I'm your host. My name is Kyle Garrison. I'm over on Twitter at Kyle Garrison2, where I talk all things Detroit sports. So head over there, give me comments, questions, concerns, episode ideas. I'd love to hear from all you guys. Also, shout out to everyone who tunes in every single day. We are on the road to 2,000 subscribers, so if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way to support the channel. And with that being said, let's get into a Monday edition of Pistons Daily. So first things first, let's do our underrated skill of the day. This one's more of an underappreciated skill, just undervalued skill overall, and that is Cade Cunningham's impact on winning. So obviously we know he's the best player on this team, and he's taken massive leaps from year to year to help get this team to where they want to be. A couple of years ago, they were one of the worst teams in the NBA. Fast forward, and they were a 44-win team last year. They took the Knicks to 6 games. They were the 6th seed, and they really put the league on notice. And that had a lot to do with Cade Cunningham. And obviously the box score numbers and his stats and the All-NBA third team and the All-Star selection kind of stand out to people. But when you look beyond the box scores and you just look into the deeper analytics of how Cade Cunningham affects this team, it is astounding just how much better the team is and the Pistons are when Cade's on the floor. For example, last year when Cade was on the floor, the Pistons scored 4.4 more points per 100 possessions, which was in the 85th percentile amongst combo guards. The Pistons also had a plus 3.2 effective field goal percentage when Cade was on the floor, ranking in the 92nd percentile amongst guards. The team field goal percentage at the rim increased by 4.1%. 4.3% from mid-range, and 1% from 3. In the half court, the Pistons scored 6.1 more points per 100 possessions when Cade is on the floor, which was in the 92nd percentile. And when you just look at these numbers overall, obviously, the Pistons, when he's on the floor, he's scoring more, he's getting to the rack, he can finish in the mid-range, and that's why a lot of those numbers are inflated. But also the fact that when he's on the floor, he's making the right passes, he's finding the open man, he's running the half-court sets, you see it. 6.1 points per 100 possessions, or more points per 100 possessions, when Cade is on the floor in the half court. It's because he is an unbelievable point guard with great instincts, great ball decision making skills with the ball in his hands, and the team just benefits overall from him being on the floor, not just solely for his scoring, but again just what he does, how he spaces the floor, how he gets his teammates involved, and that's very, very impressive for a 23-year-old going into age 24, his 5th year in the league. He's got so much unbelievable ability to impact winning on a night-to-night basis, and the proof's in the pudding. We see it in these advanced stats, we see it in the box scores, and we saw it unfold with a 30-win increase from year to year. It's pretty impressive to watch, and again, he's been doing this his entire career, but it's now just amplified because the Pistons are winning, and his teammates around him are complementing his game, and they're understanding that in order to get to where they want to go, Cade Cunningham is going to be that guy. And they trust in him, they believe in him, he's a leader, and it's just awesome to see his progression from year to year because he's a great kid, he's a great player, and I'm a big Cade Cunningham fan, I'm sure all you guys are as well, and just the way he impacts winning is infectious, clearly. 14 wins to 44, that doesn't just happen with a random guy as your number one go-to star. So again, I've been so high on this team all offseason, and despite the lack of acquisitions, I'm just continue to be confident because I think that Cade Cunningham is again going to take a leap and prove that last year wasn't just a fluke, and that's going to be consistent from here on out. But then moving on here, I wanted to talk about the Jaden Ivey effect on this team. I know we just talked about how great Cade Cunningham was last year, and he was unbelievable as a scorer, as a facilitator, as a rebounder. The only areas I would like to see him really improve on was those turnovers and then the rim efficiency. But mostly those turnovers are where in the box score most people point out an area where he needs to work on. And they're right. 4.4 turnovers per game is not going to cut it. That's a lot. And that was one of the, I think, top 5 in the NBA, maybe top 2. I think he might have only been behind Trae Young last year, but don't quote me on that. I might have to fact check that. But again, 4.4 turnovers, that is a ton. It was a whole turnover up from the year before, and And I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that there was just not a secondary ball handler next to Cade for a majority of the year. And he kind of turned into a one-man show at times, and he was putting the ball in harm's way, was a little lackadaisical with the ball in his hands, and that impacted his turnover numbers overall. Again, it's not his fault. The team needs him to have the ball in his hand. That's where he thrives. But he was 36.6 had a 36.6 usage rate last year, which is top 5 in the entire NBA. He had the ball in his hands an insane amount, again, for good reason, because he's an unbelievable facilitator and isolation scorer. But I think if you have, again, a secondary ball handler like Jaden Ivey next to him, it's going to be crucial because, again, I still expect Cade Cunningham to have the ball in his hands a lot. He's going to have a very high usage rate because he thrives in that role. But you can now rely on Jaden Ivey to take some of the load off. He can run some of those half-court sets. He can drive into congested lanes late in the shot clock. And it will just take some of that load off of Cade Cunningham because a lot of the times his turnovers came from drives, with 7-8 seconds left on the shot clock where he's getting a screen, where it's an automatic double team. Jeez, my mic almost just fell over. Sorry about that. But when, he faces a double team in the paint and he just can't get his shot up or he can't get a pass off, it goes off his leg or he throws it out of bounds. And that's where a lot of those turnovers came from. So if you have another guy who's got a different change of pace, gives the defense a different look like Jaden Ivey, I think that's going to be very, very beneficial going forward, and it would allow Cade Cunningham to just become more efficient with the ball in his hands and just be a better overall point guard like we know he can be. But again, I do think it's going to be really fun to watch these two work off of each other. There's going to be some growing pains this year. There's no doubt about that. But, when we see those flashes and when we see those signs of greatness between them two, we'll know and we'll see and we'll talk about it on here, and it's going to be fun to watch. But let me know in the comments if you think that Jaden Ivey being back this year will help Cade cut down those turnovers and just what you're overall most looking forward to seeing out of the Cade Cunningham, Jaden Ivey backcourt duo. And moving on, I wanted to talk about NBA.com's just key additions for every team. They just named one key addition for every team and gave some reasoning behind it. And the Pistons was Duncan Robinson. So it was, let's just see. Hold on, I got to find it. Okay, so yeah, NBA.com writes, a third-year leap from Cade Cunningham resulted in Detroit tripling its win total last season, leading it to its first playoff appearance since 2019. One of only two players alongside Nikola Jokic to average 25, 9 assists last season. Cunningham now has Duncan Robinson, a career 39.7 three-point shooter, to space the floor. Caris LeVert also joined Detroit via free agency, while Jaden Ivey is set to return from injury to boost its backcourt. So I think it's just very important that NBA.com and the rest of the NBA community realizes that having a guy like Duncan Robinson is going to be great for Cade Cunningham. It's going to be very impactful. Who knows if it's going to be Malik Beasley? I don't know if those numbers are going to be replicated again by a 25 to 28 minute a night guy ever again. The volume that Malik Beasley shot the ball at, the efficiency was unbelievable. I don't even know if Malik Beasley could have replicated those stats. But again, having two downhill driving guards like Jaden Ivey and Cade Cunningham, and then a center who's comfortable passing and has experience running the dribble handoff, I think Duncan Robinson is going to be able to play his game. He's going to be able to get open shots, and he's kind of going to get back to what we saw the past couple years and early on in his career in Miami, where he's a guy that comes in and gives you 28 minutes to 25 to 28 minutes off the bench, averages around 13 points, 3 assists, 3 rebounds, shoots like 45%, 40% from 3, 89 from free throw line, very efficient, doesn't give you insane defense, but what he gives you in the floor spacing kind of makes up for his lack of defensive ability. And I think his minutes are going to fluctuate next year just based on matchups, but the games where we see him getting 30 minutes a night, he can be a flamethrower. He can come in and hit 6 out of 9 threes, no problem. He is that type of shooter. He's got that type of ability. His movement off ball allows him to get open even when he's on fire and teams want to shut him down, run him off the line. He's got a great pump fake off the shot as well. And I think there's a lot to just like with Duncan Robinson in this young core, especially because he's a guy who's coming into his year 31 season, and I think he's got a lot to prove. I do think that right now in this stage of his career, people are kind of writing him off as somebody who's on the tail end and the best basketball that he can play is behind him. But you look at a guy like J.J. Redick and Danny Green and some of these knockdown sharpshooters, they can play for a long time and be very effective, players on good teams because of their ability to shoot the ball. They're not asked to do much more than shoot the ball. And Duncan Robinson is a professional in what he does well, and that is, shoot the crap out of the ball. So I can't wait to see what he does alongside this crew, alongside this core, with Cade Cunningham, with Jaden Ivey, Asar, Ron Holland, a bunch of young, athletic wings and guards paired to a guy like Duncan Robinson is going to be infectious, and I think it'll be fun to watch. I hope he can get back to what he was, and hopefully, he'll get more than 20 minutes a night, because that means that he's shooting the ball well, he's efficient, and he's not a liability on defense, which could be make or break on whether or not he plays 18 minutes a night to 25 minutes a night. So let me know your guys' thoughts on the Duncan Robinson signing after about, I think, 2 months in, a month and a half since we signed him. And overall, just if you think he's the most impactful offseason signing for the Pistons, if you think it was Karis LeVert or, drafting Chaz Lanier, whatever it might be, let me know in the comments section below. And then here is the last topic of the day. And I just wanted to give the top 5 games of the year, in my opinion, for the Pistons. Just the games I'm most excited to see, the most intriguing overall games of the 2025-2026 season. And so again, I just moved back to Michigan, and I'm planning on attending multiple Pistons games this year. So hopefully I'm able to get to at least one of the 5 I'm about to mention. But with the Pistons becoming one of the more promising teams in the Eastern Conference, making strides. They have a very good young core. There's some rivalry brewing. There's some rivalries brewing, and there's some hatred among these teams that goes back a long way, and it's kind of being rekindled. We saw it last year. There was some scuffles with the Pacers. We don't like the Pacers. We know this. They're that's one of the bigger rivalries in NBA history, the Pacers and the Pistons, and that's back. We just watched what they did in the playoffs, going to the NBA Finals, falling a little bit short, but still they're a very good team on a good trajectory with a good young core. And that's just an example of an Eastern Conference team that the Pistons are kind of starting to rekindle that rivalry, and it's exciting. I don't have the Pacers on this list, but that's kind of just where I'm at with this. Some of these teams I'll mention on here are Eastern Conference, some Western, but let's just jump right into it. So number 5, Tuesday, December 30th, it's the last game of a 5-game West Coast trip, and it's against the Lakers in Los Angeles. Luka and LeBron playing at full strength. LeBron pushing for one last title. I mean, what else can you ask for? I mean, we don't know how many more games we're going to get to see of LeBron against the Pistons. So this just had to be in my top 5. That's why I made it 5. Not a ton of rivalry, not a ton of storylines behind it. But again, it's LeBron, and you got to respect him. You got to respect his greatness at this stage of his career, doing what he's doing. It's fun to see. And then number 4, so from November 7th to December 3rd, the Pistons play 14 games. They're all against Eastern Conference opponents. And I think the game I'm most intrigued with, sorry, English is hard, out of this 14-game stretch is on Tuesday, November 18th at the Atlanta Hawks. The Hawks are a new-look team. They've pretty much gone all in around Trae Young with their young core, with their young athletic wings. They just picked up Nickeil Alexander-Walker. They got Kristaps Porzingis, Luke Kennard, some of these good bench options they have now. They're getting guys back from injury. They're getting another year of Zachariah Risache. So they're a team to watch out for. They're a very good Eastern Conference team, and it's the first game against the Hawks in the 2025 season, so it'll be a good test. And this is a team where some people are picking them to finish higher than the Pistons. I think the Hawks were the 8th seed last year, so the Pistons, they should look at this as a challenge. They should go into this game and say, we're better than this team. It'll be a good test. So I'm excited about that one amidst a 14-game Eastern Conference streak. And then number 3, Monday, January 5th, playing the Knicks. It's the first time since the playoffs. And I don't really think I need to explain much here. The Pistons know what they have to do, and it should be a good game. So we'll move on from that one, and we'll go right to number 2. February 25th at home versus the defending champs and reigning MVP in the Oklahoma City Thunder and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. It's also the second game of a 6-game stretch with the Spurs, Thunder, Cavs, Magic, Cavs, and Spurs again. So just an absolute gauntlet of teams that I think are going to be really, really good. Obviously, the Thunder are going to be good. 2 games against the Cavs, who I have them finishing first in the East once again. The Magic, who I have jumping up into the top 4 in the East, who I think are going to be much better next year. And then the Spurs, 2 against the Spurs, who have the best defensive player in the NBA. If he's healthy, if Victor Wembanyama is healthy, they are one of the better teams in the NBA. The talent they have around him, that 6-game stretch is going to be brutal. So it's going to be a good way to start off that string of 6 games, especially if you play really well. And it kind of gives you a benchmark of where you're at and where you stack up against the best teams in the league post All-Star break, and potentially with some new acquisitions. We won't get into that right now, but potentially after that trade deadline, you could be looking at a team with some different faces on it. So we'll have to see come February 25th, and then number 1. This one is, I think, going to probably be a little surprising, but I have April 6th, Pistons at the Magic, and I imagine both teams will have mid to upper 40 wins at this point. I would hope the Pistons are around 46, 47 wins, and there's 3 games to go after this. So this is the 4th to last game, and it's going to be a packed crowd in Orlando. And it potentially can have some playoff seeding implications, could have some home court advantage implications. It's going to be the 4th meeting between the 2 teams on the year, and it's going to be a battle, man. We know that, again, another team that Pistons have some bad blood with every time they play. It seems to be something. We don't like them, and they don't like us, and I think that always makes for a great game. So that's why I have it at number 1. I think it's going to be very, very fun. Fortunately, it's not at home. It is in Orlando, but imagine both teams coming into that game with 43, 44 wins, something like that, with a chance at the 4 or the 5 seed. That could be very, very interesting. Could also be a potential preview of a playoff matchup as well. But that's going to round out my top 5 matchups I'm most excited for this upcoming season. Let me know in the comments if there are any games you are specifically intrigued by in the comments section below. But that's all I've got for you guys today. Again, let me know in the comments or over on Twitter your thoughts on the Jaden Ivey, Cade Cunningham backcourt duo. If you think that Duncan Robinson is the most impactful addition of the Pistons offseason. And also just some games that you're excited for this upcoming season. Kind of get the ball rolling. The summer's been slow, so let me know what you're excited for this season overall. And as always, like, subscribe, comment, turn on post notifications, and follow me on Twitter at Kyle Garrison 2. Also, head over to Spotify, leave a 5-star review and a follow if you can. Once again, thank you all so much for tuning in every single day. With that being said, that is going to do it here for episode 45 and a Monday edition of Pistons Daily, and I will catch you all next time.